सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमः भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमः भगवते वासुदेवाय should I do a slide share, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, you can do it.
Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, Swati.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving me this opportunity to talk about Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga today. And I'm really blessed that I was so immersed in studying Bhagavad Gita. Never before I've been studied it so meticulously and uh, as if in last 2 days I'm studying it for last week for a week and but somehow a lot of realizations have happened to me, so I'm very thankful for the opportunity given. And I'm just trying my bit to do justice with the opportunity given. So pardon me if there are any mistakes. And with this note, I'll continue. So, Hare Krishna. So, today I'll be talking about Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, titled Dhyana Yoga. So, in this chapter, uh, it's not going well. Can you see the title page?
Yes,
Can you all see
we
the
can see.
title page?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So in chapter 6, the path of Ashtanga Yoga is explained in detail by Krishna. Krishna's purpose in discussing the 8-step process is simply to establish its impracticality for the purpose of self-realization and spiritual perfection. In the previous chapter, chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna described how to attain perfection by Nishkam Karma, Karma Yoga, and work without expectation in return. Krishna also briefly mentioned the system of Ashtanga Yoga, the strict and arduous regime of the ascetic yogi. In the present day, millions of people practice elements of this path to achieve physical and emotional well-being, which is not what Ashtanga yoga is. However, people misinterpret it and follow the mechanical process to achieve the well-being. So, in the age such with temptation, destruction, and spiritual weakness, the easiest and the most advanced path of self-realization is Bhakti Yoga. In the conclusion of chapter 6, Krishna concluded with the establishing the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. And here the beginning of chapter number 7 starts with Bhakti Yoga. So it is setting the groundwork for chapter 7, which is Bhakti Yoga. So I'll just give you a snapshot of chapter 7, then we'll move on verse by verse and we'll try to conclude all 47 verses. So chapter 6 is having total 47 verses. The acronym is easy. So initial 1 to 9 verses is about enemy or friend. Here the mind, the power of mind is given by Krishna, that a mind can be can work as an enemy or as a friend. So there are verses 1 to 9. Then Ashtanga Yoga is described in detail from verse 10 to verse 36. And then success or failure. Here dialogues are happening between Arjuna and Krishna. Hello? Here, is there something? Here, from verse 37 to 47, 45, the S stands for success or failure, wherein Arjuna is saying this Ashtanga Yoga is highly impractical, and Krishna is assuring him that with regular practice and giving him the path of Bhakti Yoga. So there are dialogues between Krishna and Arjuna here. And ultimately, Y at acronym easy, Y stands for yogi, wherein 47 at verse 46, Krishna is saying Arjuna that Arjuna be a yogi, and ultimately you will absorb in me completely. And at 47, Krishna is concluding saying Bhakti Marga is the most is the mark which is achievable by devotees, and it is ultimately the goal of any yogi. So here, since I have divided this 47, these 47 verses into further bifurcation for easy understanding. So enemy or friend 1 to 9, we will be discussing about Nishkam Karma Yoga, wherein verse 1 and 2, 6.1 and 6.2 has been spoken about. Since chapter 5 is about Nishkam Karma Yoga, so again, Krishna is starting where he left at chapter number 5 and emphasizing on Nishkam Karma Yoga with the detachment. And he's saying that detachment and yoga both are same. We will discuss in detail. Then 2 level of Ashtanga Yoga is explained, the beginning level and at the advanced level. Verse 5 and 6 talks about mind control and detachment. 7 and 8 emphasizes on the symptoms of one with the control mind. So what that person would be when the person has controlled his mind and ultimately control the senses. Then verse 10 to 36, here Ashtanga Yoga in detail describe practicing stages. Then once how the perfection in the yoga process is achieved, what is the vision of a perfected yogi? A yogi who is perfected. Yogi means the person who is connected perfectly with Krishna, how that devotee would see the world. So vision of the devotee is described verse 29, 30, 31 and 32. And then after hearing all this from 33 to 36, Arjuna rejects the Ashtanga Yoga and says it is highly impractical. It is easy to control the wind, however difficult to control the mind. And then with success and failure, Krishna spoke about, and he raises his doubts and asks for, assurance and clarifications from Krishna. 37 to 45 is destination of unsuccessful yogi, because it's a difficult path. It is like a war against the material world, against the material temptation. So what if the devotee fails in middle? So what will happen then? So those questions are answered as in verses 37 to 45, titled as Destination of the Unsuccessful Yogi, and the conclusion, verse 46 and 47, as Yogi, and the conclusion which will pave the path for the coming chapter, Bhakti Yoga, 7th chapter. So as we all know, in the first chapter, Karma Yoga emphasized the importance of performing one's duty with devotion. Chapter 1 to 6, middle 6 chapters 7 to 12, Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion to Krishna, considered the essence of Gita. And last chapter, Jnana Yoga, focusing on attaining liberation through philosophical understanding. So we'll move on. As acronym E stands for enemy or friend, verses 1 to 9. So here enemy or friend is basically an uncontrolled mind will agitate, misguide and entangle the soul within the world, focusing one to succumb to their lower nature of lust, anger and greed. If the mind is uncontrolled, the mind will work as an enemy. And if the mind is controlled, then the mind, then it is like a friend, however act as a friend on the spiritual journey, helping one to make progressive and healthy choice which bring them closer to spiritual perfection. When one regulates and befriend the mind, one experience tranquility, peace and freedom from the duality of happiness and stress. This is further described through Nishkam Karma Yoga, wherein at 6.1 verse, Lord Krishna explains the importance of purifying oneself by the process of Nishkam Karma Yoga before trying the meditation process which is difficult for people in general. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained that real perfection is to act for the satisfaction of Krishna or the Supreme Whole. This is the crux of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So here, before getting into any mechanical yoga practices and trying to unite with Krishna, first we have to get into the process of Nishkam Karma Yoga. And in verse 6.2, renunciation is explained same as yoga in this verse, linking oneself with the Supreme. So before getting into any meditation process, one has to renounce, and renunciation and yoga is said as one of the same thing. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada say a Krishna conscious person has no desire of self-satisfaction. His criteria of success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is the perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfectional symbol of renunciation, prays in this way: Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagat isha kamaye, mam janmanishware bhagavatam bhaktir ahetuki tvai. So, O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth. So here, Nishkam Karma Yoga, Krishna is saying that renunciation is the first step before getting into any yoga processes. So a person in Krishna consciousness has no interest to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. So by engaging oneself into Krishna consciousness, we automatically gets into the path of renunciation, because our senses are engaged into pleasing Krishna's senses rather than pleasing our own senses. That way, therefore, the person in Krishna consciousness is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. So, verse 1.6.1 and 6.2 highlights about Nishkam Karma Yoga and achieving that through the path of renunciation, and Krishna consciousness is the way through which the renunciation will happen automatically, because our senses are too active in nature. If we are not deploying them into Krishna consciousness, they will be deployed into serving either oneself or relative people around. So rather than so we have to engage our senses which is for the purpose of Krishna. That way automatically renunciation will happen, and we will move up into the ladder of yoga. So, in the next verses 6.3 and 6.2, Krishna explains two level of Ashtanga Yoga, wherein first is the beginning stage, Yoga Aruruksha. In the beginning stage, one should first cultivate detachment by performing one's prescribed duties and simultaneously perform Ashtanga Yoga by practicing asanas. So, before getting into practicing asanas, um, before getting into practicing asana, because ultimately the objective is to do the purification of heart through practicing asanas, if it is about Ashtanga Yoga. So in the beginning stage, before getting into practicing asanas, one has to purify himself. And that purification will only happen if we cultivate the seed of detachment. And this can only be done by bhakti yoga. So perfect mental equilibrium or control of senses, though it is the ultimate objective, but we must get into it by getting into Krishna consciousness. So in the beginning stage, one has to cultivate detachment, and then one has to progress into the Ashtanga yoga stage. Now advanced stage, which is called as yoga arudha stage, where once the material senses are purified, in the advanced stage one can practice Ashtanga yoga exclusively. In the advanced stage, the stage is steady meditation or dhyana. One attained perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. However, so here if we talk Ashtanga yoga in exclusively, then in that case yoga beginning stage is where we have to cultivate detachment and then get into practicing yoga, practicing asanas and meditation practices. However, a Krishna conscious person is from the beginning is at advanced stage of yoga, because the Krishna conscious person has already cultivated detachment in his heart. So in the purport of verse 3 of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as it is, Srila Prabhupada explained that Krishna conscious person or a devotee of Lord Krishna is situated already in the advanced stage of meditation right from the beginning, as he is always think of pleasing Krishna, as he is constantly engaged in the service of Krishna, and he is considered to have already ceased all material activity. On the other hand, a yogi who is not a devotee of Krishna must restore to mechanical process to control mechanical all material desire. Hence, if we look at the top where my cursor is, 6.3 says, for one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, means he is at the beginning, work is said to be the mean. By doing asanas, by doing mechanical processes, one will elevate in the yoga process. However, one who is already elevated in the yoga process, means one already elevated, one is already a Krishna conscious devotee, is need not to do all these material activities, because need not to get into all this. These all material activity is said to be the mean, because by chanting, by offering prasadam, by reading shastras, by having association of devotee, the purification is already started, and that has given the seat of detachment. So a devotee of Lord Krishna is already at the advanced stage of yoga ladder. If we move on, 6.4, a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desire, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So here, when a person is fully engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, then what kind of attribute the person will exhibit? The person will be very pleased with himself. He is self-content. So Prabhupada elaborate in the purport that one who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desire before being elevated to top rung of yoga ladder. This mechanical process is described as Ashtanga Yoga by Lord Krishna from 10 to 36. But before that verse, 5, 6, and 7 are about power of mind as enemy or friend, which I will be describing in the next slide. And then the next attribute is perfectly detached from the sense gratification. Why a Krishna conscious person will be perfectly detached to the sense gratification? Because the senses are completely in control, and the senses are engaged in higher order activity. Higher order activity means pleasing. Instead of pleasing oneself, the senses are engaged in pleasing Krishna. So in the next text, mind control and detachment is described through 6.5 and 6.6. In 6.5, here Krishna explained one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So here the power of mind as enemy or friend is described. Mind control and detachment from sense object are the requirement to come to the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Excuse me. And then 6.6, Krishna says, the one who has conquered the mind is the best friend. But the one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain in the as the greatest enemy. So mind control and detachment from senses are highlighted. A mind can work as the best friend and the worst enemy. So here Krishna describes as in the purport of verse 5 of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains that more one is attached to the sense object, the more one becomes entangled in this material world. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and draw it away from the attachment of sense object. Prabhupada stress in the purport that the mind must be trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul's material bondages and will not be attracted to the glitter of material nature. He concluded the purport in this way: the best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage mind in the Krishna consciousness. That way, the mind will act as the best friend. In this purport, there is a reference of verse. Yeah. In this purport, there is a reference of verse from Amrita Bindu Upanishad 2, which says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshano bandhaya vishwa sango mraktye nirvishasham mana. For man, mind is the cause of bondage, and the mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense object is the cause of bondage, and the mind detached from the sense object is the cause of liberation. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. So, the person who has controlled his mind, what are the symptoms of the person is explained by Krishna in verse 6.7 and 6.8 as to such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it to be pebble or a stone or gold, as the same. He is considered still further as advanced when he regards honest, well-wisher, affectionate, and the neutral, mediator, and envious, friends and enemy, the pious and the sinner, all with the equal mind. Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport further that no one become Krishna consciousness by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with pure devotee, and once he is satisfied with the pure devotional service, by the grace of God, Lord Krishna, knowledge realization happen and one becomes perfect, and by this perfect knowledge one can remain steady in his conviction. So basically first we have to purify ourselves, and once the purification happen, and the with the grace of Lord Krishna, the knowledge realization will happen, and with this perfect knowledge one can steady in the conviction. With complete faith we will remain in, and we will not get confused with the apparent contradictions. And such a person who is absorbed in supreme, the precious jewel gold holds no greater value than the pebble of the stones. So these are the qualities of a person who has controlled his mind. So the mind has become the friend of the person, and that person will exhibit these attributes, these kind of symptoms. So that person, here Prabhupada used the word, the person would be known in practical samadhi. The person would be situated in practical samadhi. Why practical word is used by Prabhupada is because the person has not gone to a secluded place. The person is very well within the staying within the family, discharging all his conditional duties, and at the same time completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, using Krishna conscious purifying activities as the mean to achieve the yoga as in to unite with the Krishna, and ultimately getting in the absorption in the supreme. So practical samadhi is used for the person who has completely controlled his mind and has made his mind as his friend by controlling the senses, or rather diverting the senses towards the Krishna. Now, so we are done with the initial part wherein Krishna is talking about the importance of detachment, and a detached person is, Krishna says, is one as a yogi, because the detached person will exhibit the quality where sorrow and happiness, well-wishers or enemies, all he will treat as same. He'll not entangled himself into any material desires. For him, pebble and gold will hold the same value. Now Krishna is moving into Ashtanga Yoga, wherein how the the earlier ages, living in seclusion, practicing celibacy, and under strict regulation of eating and sleeping, the yogi would sit in a perfect erect position, focusing his consciousness on the supreme soul within, ignoring mental and bodily distraction. The yogi would unwaveringly meditate for many years, maintaining complete stillness, silence, and focus. After hearing of this strict discipline, now in these purport, as we progress further, after hearing all this from Krishna, Arjuna frankly admit his inability to practice this practice Ashtanga Yoga, and then find it quite impractical and undurable. And then this is how we'll move into next verses. So here practicing stage is described into verses 6.10 to 6.70, which have been further divided into 6.10 to 6.12 method of preparation. So a yogi who is a transcendentalist, what all a transcendentalist should do to get into Ashtanga Yoga is being described by Krishna from 6.10 to 6.12. So here Krishna says the transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relation with Supreme, live alone in secluded place, should always control his mind, should be free from desire or feeling of possessiveness. So even if one chooses the path of Ashtanga Yoga, the first step is to purify the mind. The yogi should first absorb completely into Krishna. So completely control his mind, should be free from all kind of material desires. So this is explained in 6.10 and 6.12. But here Prabhupada says that this is very difficult in the age of Kali. First job of yogi to keep the mind always on Krishna. So how can we achieve the above said things in a more convenient and practical way? So Srila Prabhupada says that when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accept everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in the renunciation. So, Prabhupada said the first job of yogi is to keep the mind always on Krishna in the samadhi state. That way, the body, the first point, the body, mind, and self will always remain situated in relation with the Supreme. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external object. He should be very careful to accept favorable or reject unfavorable. Here, for a Krishna conscious person, what is favorable? Favorable, whatever situation, what kind of dialogue, and whatever association which is leading us to Krishna, towards Krishna consciousness, are all favorable. So a Krishna conscious person should accept all these favorable things and reject unfavorable condition, which will entangle one in further into material bondages. Or that will affect his realization. So by doing all this, a transcendentalist should make himself ready to further purify and achieve the yoga process. After doing above all, he automatically would not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangled him by feeling of possession. So in the next verses, so this is the preparation for Ashtanga Yoga, or here Prabhupada explains, since it's highly impractical and a devotee of Krishna is already at the advanced stage by controlling his mind, by regulating his senses. So the preparation method is practical and possible through Krishna conscious way. Now the process of meditation is described. What is the process of meditation in Ashtanga Yoga in verse 66.13 and 14 as a transcendent. Yeah, so 12, 10 we have discussed here. So 12 is a transcendentalist should who is pursuing the Ashtanga Yoga. One should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activity, and fixing the mind to on one point. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained that with the reference of Brahma Naradiya Purana, it is said that Kali Yuga, the present Yuga, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best mean of spiritual realization in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare. So it is. Harer Naam Kevalam Kalau Nastev Gatiranyatha. So when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, in the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only mean of deliverance is chanting the holy name of Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other ways. Because going to a secluded place, lying down kusha grass and cover it with deer skin and soft cloth are quite impractical. And then practicing these asanas will not will take there, and there are no but there are hardly any people to guide on these practices. Then on top of it, in Kali Yuga, this is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So Harinam is the only way for the deliverance, and it is quite practical way by remaining in your conditioned duties, conditioned state. This can be very well practiced, and there is no other way. There is no other way. This is what Srila Prabhupada described in his purport. So the next is 6.13 and 14, which talks about the process of meditation in Ashtanga Yoga. So one should hold one body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me, Krishna, within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Here, the process is further described, which in the later verses we will see Arjuna himself, who is a great devotee of Lord Krishna, finds highly impractical, and in the current age, it is further impractical. So, Prabhupada here says that. Yeah, so here Prabhupada further says that by doing all this, this is highly impractical and difficult way of, and then here Ashtanga Yogi always sees the objective of Ashtanga Yogi is to see Paramatma in his heart, and there are a lot of at a lot of places it may happen that Ashtanga Yogi may get bewildered. And however, in case of Bhakti Yoga, the devotee always, the objective of devotee is to have a relationship with Lord Krishna. He always aspire to have relationship with Krishna and look at the beautiful Sham Sundar form of Lord Krishna. There he cultivate a relationship with Krishna through the purifying processes, wherein every day while discharging his daily duties, he is always engaged in Krishna, and that way he need not to go to any secluded place or do the mechanical process, and which are highly impractical and difficult in the present age. So the next 6.17 and 6.15 and 16, the key for success in yoga process is described. So 6.17 text says practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities. So regulation holds the key for the success in the yoga process. So regulation in eating, regulation in sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material planes by practicing the yoga system. One cannot become a yogi if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. One who is regulated in one's habit of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. In his purport to the verse 16th of 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada explained that one who eats for sense pleasure or cook for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. Moreover, those who indulge in animal meat, drinking, and smoking, Srila Prabhupada says, suffer sinful reaction because of eating polluted things. Srila Prabhupada question as to how one who eats only sin make any progress in the yoga system. So the key to success in yoga process lies in following the processes of Krishna consciousness. By offering prasadam, we will regulate our own habits of eating. By getting association of devotees, by reading and doing rounds of chanting, we can regulate our sleeping and recreation pattern. We will engage into better taste, and that way we will automatically regulate the habits of eating, or that way we can control the body, mind, and activity. So this is not at all a mechanical process. It will become a very gradual process for a devotee who is on the path of Krishna consciousness. So the success is sure if it is these practices are followed meticulously and with full faith. Now, as we move on from Bhagavad Gita verses 18 to 28, here the perfection in the yoga process is described. How a yogi, a transcendentalist, who is see all yoga processes, be it dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, the ultimate aim is to unite with the Lord, is to establish the lost connection with the Lord. So how to attain this perfection in the yoga processes? So in 6.18, Lord says, when the yogi, by practicing of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desire, he is said to be well established in yoga. So discipline his mental activities. What does this mean? In the purport, Prabhupada explained, the activities of yogis are distinguished from those of an ordinary person. How? By his characteristics, cessation from all kind of material desire, of which sex is the chief desire. A perfect yogi, so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. The perfectional stage can automatically attained by person in Krishna consciousness. And in purport 6.19, Lord Krishna gives the analogy of the lamp in the windless place. When the person is situated, when the person has controlled his mind completely and completely in discipline with all the mental activities like sleeping, recreation, eating, in that case, the person will be like a lamp in the windless place, and the person will not waver at all by the external anxieties. So here the analogy given by Krishna is the lamp in the windless place doesn't waver, so as the Krishna conscious person always remain absorbed in transcendence, in constant meditation on his worshipable Lord Krishna. From 20 to 23, Lord Krishna explains the stage of perfection in the process. Now, see, the person has renounced the bodily attachment. The person is preparing himself for the yoga, for towards the linking of the Lord. He's trying. His all endeavors are to discipline his mental activities. So, how the person, what is the stage of perfection uh, is described from verse 20 to 23, and this is called samadhi. The person is situated. If the person is doing all this regularly with full faith, then the person will be situated in boundless transcendental happiness. The person will not be affected by the external circumstances. The person will never depart from the truth, and upon gaining this stage, thinks there is no greater gain, because the person now weigh everything basis on the spiritual progress. So the material gain or loss will not impact him. So he will always, he will not hanker upon losing something at the material platform. And ultimately, the person will achieve freedom from all the material miseries. And this stage is called Samadhi stage. Now, from verse 24 to 25, the practice of yoga with determination and faith is described. So now, once you reach at this stage, this practical samadhi stage, it is again as a conditioned soul. It is not easy to remain at the samadhi stage. You have to keep on doing the practice. You have to keep on following the Krishna conscious processes, and because you are surrounded with lot of temptation, there are conditions which will lure you, will disturb you. So the practice of yoga with determination, if you practice this yoga of detachment, discipline, and connecting with Lord through processes, the practice of yoga with determination and faith, it will lead you to pratyahara. So here, from at this stage, Srila Prabhupada recommend the process of bhakti yoga or devotional service unto Lord Krishna as the best practice of yoga in modern times. Srila Prabhupada maintains that one can achieve the state of samadhi and boundless happiness simply by executing the path of bhakti yoga, which is simpler and easier path to execute. So here at 6.26, by doing regular practice of with faith and determination at the stage of pratyahara at 6.26, Prabhupada explains that one who control his mind is called Goswami, and one who is controlled by the mind is called Godasa, or the servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha. Here, Rishikesha word is used because Krishna is the controller of senses, or the supreme honor of the senses. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. So, if one is not on the path of becoming Goswami, wherein he is controlling the senses, the one will become Godasa, where the senses will be controlled by the person. So we have to do regular practice to go towards the path of Goswami rather than degrade ourselves and become Godasa. So from 6.18, wherein if you look at my cursor, wherein the discipline, wherein it is prescribed to discipline all the mental activities and achieve the samadhi and pratyahara stage. Ultimately at 6.27 and 28, it is said that thus the self-controlled yogi constantly engage in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination, and achieve the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving services of the Lord. And here it is now the practitioner will be becoming the yogi, the transcendentalist, because he has controlled his senses. He is disciplined in controlling his mental activities. He is in a practical samadhi, and he is achieving the stage of pratyahara. He is on the way towards becoming a Goswami. He is controlling his senses rather than getting controlled by the senses. And this is the highest stage of perfect happiness. Why it is perfect happiness? Because the happiness is coming from Almighty Krishna. by serving him, by serving his senses, rather than serving our senses, which is quite temporary in nature. So here we are finally at 6.27 and 28. It is said that this is the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So in the next verse 6.29 and 6.32, the vision of the perfect yogi. So now it is by doing all this, the yogi has perfected, the yogi has become the perfected yogi. So how this perfected yogi will see the world, what kind of perspective change would happen to a true devotee is described in verse 6.29 to 6.32. So a self-realized person, a true yogi, or a Krishna conscious devotee, they all are the same. And how this yogi, a true yogi, will see the world. So that 6.29 says, from 6.29, 30, 31 and 32, they talk about the vision of perfect yogi, how the perfect yogi will see the world around him, the same material world around him. So 6.29 says, the perfect yogi observe Krishna in all living being and also sees every being in Krishna. Since Lord Krishna explains the vision of a yogi who has attained perfection. He explained that a true yogi sees him in all living being and sees all living being in him. Such a pure soul is never lost to Krishna. Such a yogi realizes that Krishna is the Paramatma present in the heart of all living entities. Hence, he will see all living being as equal. Observe Krishna in all living being, because he very well now know that pure soul, Krishna, that Paramatma is present in the heart of all living entity, and one and same as a yogi emphasizes with all being in their happiness and distress. So next 6.30, such a devotee, Krishna says, I am never lost, nor he is ever lost in me. So this devotee who is self-realized, he will this devotee will we will never be lost in Krishna, because he is so happy in serving the Krishna. He is so content and satisfied. So, and then 6.31, what is the what else this perfect yogi will do? This Krishna says that Krishna and the super soul are one in all circumstances. He has this perfect realization, then Krishna and the super soul are one in all circumstances. That in case of some difficult conditions, in case of some condition testing times, he knows that Krishna is always with me. So his perspective, his behavior, and his reaction to the situation will always be very different, and will be complying to the spiritual path. He will not take some abrupt decisions. He will be always calm, because he knows that Krishna is always with him in all the circumstances. Similarly, he sees true equality for all living beings in both happiness and in distress. Srila Prabhupada further describes or explains the difference between Ashtanga Yogi and a Bhakti Yogi in reference to verse 6.32, that the devotee of Lord Krishna, he explained that while the Ashtanga Yogi has withdrawn himself to a secluded place in pursuit of his own liberation, a Bhakti Yogi is very well concerned for the welfare of all being. He will be very much in the material world. As a yogi, he is helping others to get liberated. A Bhakti Yogi is very much concerned for the welfare of all being. A Bhakti Yogi tries his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. So this is the vision of a perfect yogi, which is described in the verse 6.29 to 6.32, wherein the perfect yogi will see every being in Krishna, where he will not be lost and nor he ever be lost to Krishna. and he will see he will see the true equality in all the being, because he knows that same Paramatma is situated in everyone's heart, and he is he is very much in the practical world. So his objective, unlike Ashtanga Yogi, will always be concerned for the welfare of all living beings. Am I audible? It looks like a monologue. Hello?
Hare Krishna. Yes, yes, we are listening. It's
Okay, okay.
Please continue.
Mhm. So, uh, so now, so we started with Nishkam Karma because chapter 5 ended there. So Nishkam Karma, detachment, then regulation. Then Krishna says yoga and detachment are one of the same, 6.3. Then Krishna moved into explaining the process of Ashtanga Yoga in detail, then how to perfect the yoga, and then once the practical samadhi is achieved, once the practical samadhi is achieved, and once the person has realized, when the person is self-realized and become a true yogi, a Krishna conscious pure devotee, then how would his vision will change? Up till now, this is what is covered till verse 3.2. For the first time in chapter 6, Arjuna is speaking from 3.3, and the dialogues are happening between Arjuna and Krishna. So, so just a second. So here Arjuna says, after listening to the process of Ashtanga Yoga, Arjuna says, Arjuna vacha chanchalam hi mana Krishna prathami balavardharam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. So here Arjuna is saying, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appear impractical and undurable to me. For the mind is restless and unsteady. So why impractical? Because Arjuna is a grahast, and he knows the difficulty for a grahastha to do Ashtanga yoga, because one has to go to a secluded place, one has to get into a mechanical process of asanas, one has to do a lot of the complete celibacy and a lot of regulations. However, the regulations are there in Krishna consciousness also, but the senses are regulated not by doing some asanas, some mechanical asanas. The Krishna conscious process advocate that the controlling of senses should happen first, rather controlling diverting of senses. We should, rather than pleasing our senses, we should please the senses of Krishna by getting into Krishna conscious processes. So after listening to the entire process of Ashtanga Yoga from Lord Krishna, Arjuna plainly rejects the process, citing his inability to control his restless and unsteady mind. In this purport of the verse 33 of the sixth chapter, Srila Prabhupada explains that 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we have now, and yet he rejected this yoga process. Srila Prabhupada comments that Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this yoga system, which regulate even the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material entanglement. He concluded that although this yoga process may be possible for very few, it is impossible for the people in general. So Arjuna here is saying the mind is restless and unsteady. This is a very nature of mind being restless and unsteady, and then impracticality and endurability of this Ashtanga yoga will make it impossible for conditioned soul. So Arjuna further is saying the mind is restless, turbulence, obstinate and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think is more difficult than controlling the wind. In verse 34, he's saying Arjuna is saying the individual is the passenger. So it's like I have shown you a picture where a chariot and then there are those horses as senses. So that is like how mind is, how difficult it is to control the senses. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and the intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horse. The self is thus the enjoyer and sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcome even one's own intelligence. That's what Arjuna is saying and being described in the purport. So what Krishna is replying to it in text in verse 35 and 36 as Asansaya Mahabaho Mano Dunigraha Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagnyena cha grahatyati. So here Krishna used the word abhyasen. First, he is saying asanshaya mahabhav. He is agreeing to what Krishna is saying, what Arjuna is saying. He is saying, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible through abhyasena, means suitable practice. To konteya vairagyena means by detachment. So practicing the detachment, you can control this strong mind. That's what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. And then he is further continuing, for one whose mind is um, unbridled, self-realization is difficult word, but he whose mind is controlled and who strive by appropriate mean is assured of success. That is my opinion. So here Krishna is saying, yes, it is difficult to control the mind. As rightly said by you, Arjuna, that it is more difficult than controlling the wind. But with suitable practice and by detachment, you can control it by appropriate mean. And the success is assured. What are those appropriate means? So the appropriate mean, Srila Prabhupada commented that the easiest way to control the mind is to follow the method suggested by Lord Chaitanya, to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Krishna responds to Arjuna's comment by suggesting that the mind can be controlled by suitable practice and detachment. In this purport of verse 35, of 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada comment that the process of hearing about Krishna can enlighten the yogi and detach his mind from activities that hamper his advancement in yoga. Srila Prabhupada also explained the real meaning of vairagya, detachment of the mind from matter and its attachment to Krishna. So we have to detach our mind from the matter and attach our mind, because our mind is too chanchal. We have to, our mind is, we have to detach it from the matter and attach it to Krishna. And we have to keep on practicing this. That is what the suitable practice means here. The suitable practice is to detach our mind from the matter and attach it to Krishna. And if we keep on doing this practice, we will definitely achieve the success. A Krishna conscious person easily achieve the result of yoga practice without separate endeavors. Separate endeavors means what is described in the Ashtanga Yoga, leaving the family, going to secluded place, putting the kusha grass, then deer skin, then sitting and mechanically doing the asanas, looking at the same place for a longer period of time. So we need not to do all this without separate endeavor, but a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna consciousness. So this is how the dialogues are happening between Arjuna and Krishna from verse 33 to 36. And then the last this S acronym, success or failure. Now now Arjuna is thinking, what is the destination of an unsuccessful yogi? Since it's a long path, starting from detachment, purification, uh, detachment, achieving purification through detachment, then being disciplined in the activities, and then getting into practical samadhi, and then practicing it all the time throughout with the weapon of detachment, and getting into the right processes. So Arjuna is fearing, what is the destination of the yogi who is not been successful or who has come the halfway, and what will happen to that person, because he is not completely absorbed in the material life. At the same time, he is not advancing the way he wanted to advance himself. So what will happen to that yogi? So hearing about the difficulty of Ashtanga yoga raises a fresh concern to Arjuna. From verse 37 to 45, those are described. So he's saying the unsuccessful spiritualist is seemingly left in no man's land, having failed to attain spiritual satisfaction, and simultaneously wasted his opportunities for worldly pleasure. So he's asking Arjuna, what will happen to such an transcendentalist, to such an yogi who has not reached to the ultimate goal. So from 37 to 45 verse, that is being explained by Lord Krishna. So Arjuna then asked Krishna about the destination of an unsuccessful yogi or a transcendentalist who fails to attain perfection in his endeavor in the yoga. So in verse 37 of 6th chapter, Prabhupada commented that to pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare a war on the illusionary energy which try to capture the yogi with various allurement. It's not easy because every now and then during the course of time you come across situation which will attract you, which will pull you towards the again materialism, to your to the attraction which are worldly. So here in this purport, so what is the destination of unsuccessful transcendentalist? Arjuna is inquiring to Krishna, who is in the beginning takes the process of self-realization with faith and determination, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in the yoga process. So this is what is asked. And then further to this, Arjuna asks whether an unsuccessful yogi falls away from both material and spiritual position with no position in any sphere. So that's a very valid question coming from Arjuna, because it's very difficult to remain in this path. There are a lot of attractions outside. However, a yogi is keep on trying to keep on putting his endeavors to achieve the yoga, to move up on the yoga ladder. Still it is difficult. So Arjuna is asking, what will happen to such a yogi who is in midway? So is he since he is not in material and spiritual position, he is nowhere. So what will be his position? In reply to these queries, these inquiries from Arjuna's, Krishna gives first assurance to him at verse 6.40. Krishna says that um, such auspicious activities means activities those are interested only, those are auspicious activities means activities those are in the service of Lord Krishna, wherein you are offering prasadam, you are doing chanting, you are reading scriptures, you are following the direction of Lord in your daily discharge of duties. So a transcendentalist who's engaged in these auspicious activities does not meet with restriction either in this world nor in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So, this is how Krishna at verse 6.40 is giving assurance to Arjuna that no harm will happen to you, Arjuna, if you are following the auspicious activities. And further, he adds in verse 6.41 and 42 that the unsuccessful yogi, um, uh, Krishna explains the fate of two kind of unsuccessful yogis. One who falls down after short yoga practice, who has just started, who has just started doing those purifying processes and would not be able to continue. And what will happen to the yogis who falls down after long yoga practices? So Krishna says those who fall down after short yoga practices first go to the higher planet and then take birth in the families of righteous brahmanas or rich aristocratic class. A yogi who falls down after long yoga practice, the second uh, type, a yogi who falls down after long yoga practice take birth in a family of transcendentalists, especially those of the acharyas or goswamis. These are in a way given opportunity to the yogi to complete his Krishna conscious services to further advance in the yoga path. So by giving him birth in the aristocratic families or righteous Brahman families, or giving him birth to acharyas and goswamis, he has given opportunities to listen about Krishna Katha, to hear about to listen about Krishna Katha, or to get the knowledge about various principles, Vedic principle from the beginning, and that way the person will take up Krishna consciousness from the very early stage of the life and will have good chance to advance further in the yoga processes. So further to this, Krishna says, by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principle even without seeking them. So maybe the person is not, before the person seek himself the yogic principle, he will automatically becoming attracted because these kind of yoga principles are followed, are discussed in the environment where the person has taken birth. So in purport of verse 43 of 6th chapter, Srila Prabhupada says, and in 44 also, he gives the example, he cited the example of Thakur Haridasa, a disciple of Lord Chaitanya who constantly chanted the holy name of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explained that one cannot take two principles of Krishna consciousness or chant the holy name without being sufficiently purified and having passed through all the ritualistic method of the Veda in the previous life. So, Lord Krishna here at 6.45 verse says, by making further progress, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many birth of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So, again, going back to verse 6.40, where he's saying, nothing will go waste. If you have taken just few steps in this life in Krishna consciousness, you will be given some opportunity to advance further. If you have reached advanced stage and you are just falling short of few steps, you will be given more and more opportunities, and birth by birth Krishna will keep on giving opportunities to ultimately attain the supreme goal. So here at text 46 and 67, 46 Krishna, it is acronym Y, which is yogi. Here at 46 instruction of Krishna is given to Arjuna as be a yogi, Arjuna. So Krishna says to Arjuna that a yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be the yogi. Here, so here it is said that just before Krishna concludes the discussion on Ashtanga Yoga, Lord Krishna declares that the yogi is greater than a yogi is greater than all the ascetic, empiricist, and fruitive worker. He says that the process of yoga is praised by Lord Krishna. Here is nothing but bhakti yoga. While all yoga systems are certainly beneficial, the most advanced, efficient, and easiest path to is known as Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. In this age, the primary practice of your Bhakti Yoga is mantra meditation, chanting the name of Lord Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. With this, at verse 6.47, Krishna concluded that uh, of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abide in me, think of me within himself and renders transcendental loving services to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So here, Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness is the ultimate perfection of all the yogas. Lord Krishna concluded his discussion on yoga by explaining that one who always abide in him, Krishna with great faith, always think of him, within him, and renders transcendental loving services to him is the highest of all the yogi and advocate Bhakti Yoga and establish the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. And as per him, the ideal yogi concentrate his attention completely on Krishna and who is called uh, and Krishna's Shama Sundar form, who is as beautiful colored as the cloud, whose lotus-like face is as affluent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded, illuminating all side, is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahma Jyotir. He incarnated in different forms such as Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he descended like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. And this is how it is concluded. uh, Krishna concluded the chapter 6 and um, chapter initial Bhagavad Gita initial 6 chapters are about Nishkam Karma. We today we I just give a brief on chapter 6. This Krishna ended the chapter 6 with giving importance to Bhakti Yoga. So the chapter 6, 7 will start with knowledge of absolute, where Krishna explained to Arjuna that he is the ultimate source of everything, pre-meeting the entire universe like bead strung on the thread, and emphasizes the concept of surrendering to him through devotion, Bhakti Yoga. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, स्वाति माता जी, वेरी ब्यूटीफुल प्रेजेंटेशन. बहुत अच्छे से आपने स्लाइड्स भी वेरी नाइसली मेड एंड ईच वर्स लाइक द सेक्शंस आल्सो यूजुअली एकदम शुरू में ही सब कुछ एकदम अच्छे से पूरा बता दिया था कि पूरे चैप्टर में क्या है. वेरी ब्यूटीफुली एक्सप्लेन, वेरी नाइस, आई एम वेरी हैप्पी. So basically in this chapter Krishna is stressing on what?
Asking me, Mataji. Mataji, Krishna is explaining Ashtanga Yoga. However, he is also telling Arjuna that this is highly impractical and it is not needed. Uh,
Yes. So
he,
basically, he's stressing on yoga, that everybody has to be a yogi, right? He's asking all, it's a message for all of us, right? That we all have to become a yogi. And what does yoga mean exactly?
Bhakti Yoga.
Yoga is connecting with the re-establishing the connection with the our Creator, Lord Krishna.
Lord, yes. Yoga is to re-establish our connection with the Supreme Lord. Hmm. Connecting with the Supreme is called as yoga. And how this so important tool, mind is like a tool for us. Mind can be your best friend, it can be your worst enemy.
Mm.
So, Nishkam Karma Yoga, and then why mind control is necessary, and how bringing mind back is the key to success. बिकॉज माइंड इज रेस्टलेस, माइंड तो रेस्टलेस है ही, वो तो नेचर ही है माइंड का। जैसे बच्चों का नेचर ही होता है ना, वो नटखट होते ही है। यू कैन नॉट हेल्प इट, यू कैन नॉट से व्हाई चिल्ड्रन आर सो नॉटी, दे आर नॉटी बाय नेचर। वैसे माइंड भी रेस्टलेस ही है बाय नेचर, बट वी हैव टू ब्रिंग द माइंड बैक। दैट्स अ सक्सेस इन एनी योगा प्रैक्टिस। And then finally, Krishna concludes, in between, Arjuna asks, what happens to an unsuccessful yogi? What's the answer to that? कभी कभी हमारे मन में भी ऐसा संशय आता होगा कि पता नहीं इस जन्म में हम कर पाएंगे नहीं कर पाएंगे, भगवत धाम जाएंगे नहीं जाएंगे, what will happen to me in my next life? So what is the answer to that? Swati
Nothing
Mataji?
will, yeah, Mataji, nothing will go in vain. You will be given opportunities in the next life, and by giving you birth at a place where you will advance in your spiritual practices.
Yes. Actually, I wanted somebody else to answer,
Oh,
but
sorry.
Mataji, I
yes,
wanted to answer, but then Mataji, I have one small. It's just an observation. The as expected, Swati's presentation was exceptional, with all the boxes, all the arrows, everything, making it very self-explanatory as to what it talks about. But
yeah,
fact remains, I think this particular topic it is a power-packed topic. So it cannot, in 1 hour, 1.5 hour, you cannot explain everything. So it
yeah.
appears as though it is very exhaustive. For some people who are listening to it for the first time, it will be difficult to comprehend कि क्या बोल रहे हैं, मतलब क्या क्या हो रहा है इसमें,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yes,
full
Mataji.
of information.
In fact, I wanted to call and ask, can I, break into two parts?
Yes,
Actually,
yes,
that could have
actually
been
we
done.
could do that, आज
Yes.
आधा और अगले क्लास में आधा कर सकते थे,
Um,
बट ठीक है, आपने प्रिपेयर कर लिया था, तो आई डिडंट इंटरफियर इन बिटवीन।
Yeah, I had one observation. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. The whole chapter is talking about, it appears as though Krishna has spoken about Karma Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga and all the other types of yoga only to say finally that Bhakti Yoga is best. But that's not the way it is. No, he is describing every type of yoga. Finally, he says, in Kali Yuga, since you cannot do all these things which are there in all the other types of yoga, the best thing for you is to just sit in one place and chant my name. But it doesn't. It doesn't mean that he's explaining these yogas only to prove that Bhakti Yoga is best. I think that is a little too. I'm not somehow convinced about that. He is explaining every
No, no,
type
no.
of yoga.
Krishna, I understood your statement, Mataji.
Yeah.
So Krishna is definitely explaining all types of yoga, but because he is the creator of every yoga, right? सारा जो योगा सिस्टम भी है, किसने बनाया है?
उन्होंने ही
कृष्ण ने
बनाया.
ही बनाया ना, कि कर्म योग है, ज्ञान योग है, अष्टांग योग है, बहुत सारे योगा पथ है, बट ही इज ओनली सेइंग व्हिच इज द बेस्ट, भक्ति योगा। द
That is
क्रिएटर,
for Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, because we don't have that kind of
whether it is
focus,
Kalyug, no, no,
intelligence.
no, Mataji, when was Prahlad Maharaj born? Which yuga?
Kali Yuga only.
Prahlad Maharaj is born in Satya Yuga, but
But
Bhakti Yoga, he performed Bhakti Yoga, right? So there are so many devotees, they are born in other yugas also, but they have performed Bhakti Yoga and they have attained perfection. So yes, there are all types of yoga systems, and depending whichever a jiva can take up to any path. But Krishna is also concluding that Bhakti Yoga is easiest and it gives you the highest result of connecting with Krishna in love and
Correct,
devotion.
correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
he,
yeah, that I agree. That I agree. But I feel it is like the way we have harped about that all this we are telling you because finally we'll prove to you that Bhakti Yoga is the best. Somehow that is giving a very a kind of I don't know. It gives a very disturbing kind of a thing. Bhagavad Gita is not about only proving that Bhakti Yoga is best. Bhagavad Gita is about what all systems are there. He's teaching us all the systems. He is saying for you in Kali Yuga
Mataji,
this
one
is
second,
best.
one second. We must first open ourselves to what Krishna wants to give us the message, right? Actually,
Correct.
अभी तक हमने भगवत गीता को कैसे समझा कि what we have understood from Bhagavad Gita, right? What Bhagavad Gita is trying to tell me, but actually, who is speaking Bhagavad Gita? Lord Krishna. First, try to understand कि कृष्णा हमें क्या मैसेज दे रहा है, and we should not take anything personal कि ये मतलब कृष्णा इज जस्ट गिविंग अस सम एकदम
Yeah,
स्ट्रेट
yeah,
फॉरवर्ड वो हमें
that's
इन्फॉर्मेशन
precisely
दे
what
रहे हैं
I'm
कि बताओ
saying,
क्या तुम्हारे
Mataji.
लिए बेस्ट है.
No, Mataji, that is what I'm saying. That he's Bhagavad Gita gives us information about all types of yogas. Where and in the end it concludes that okay, since in Kali Yuga these things are not possible, so for in this yuga this is the best thing to do. But that you cannot override or completely wish away the other yogas, saying that
Yes, yes, yes.
no, finally. So this is what Prabhupada feels. But I guess it
No,
is
no,
not
no.
the only
Prabhupada
purpose of
also,
Bhagavad
Mother,
Gita.
Prabhupada also doesn't say that other yogas are not this or they're bad or this or that.
No, he doesn't say it
But
is bad. He says this is the easiest and the best way to achieve that.
yes, because
So,
it's a
so it
fact.
has been.
It's a fact, no, Mataji. Bhakti, isn't it a fact that Bhakti Yoga is the easiest and the
It is
most.
a fact, but I'm trying to say when you are narrating a chapter, harping on only saying that finally we'll conclude that this is not acceptable or is not suitable or this
You know why,
I think
Mataji?
that
You know
statement
why?
should not be made. That's what I
Why?
feel.
No, why did he make these statements? Because अगर सपोज मैंने बुक उठाया भगवत गीता और इफ आई वांट मतलब बेसिकली व्हाट डज कृष्णा वांट कृष्णा वांट्स दैट ऑल द कंडीशनड souls should come back to
Him.
Godhead, right? He should go back to Godhead. अब मैं भगवत गीता उठाकर सपोज आई गेट अट्रैक्टेड टू ज्ञान योग और अष्टांग योग I still have to take so many lifetimes. It's a long process. It's a long
Correct.
process and it cannot be practiced in Kali Yuga. Therefore, the acharyas, they have to speak some very strict words. मतलब एकदम ऐसे words which may not be very pleasing to us, but they use those words so that we take the right thing. क्योंकि हमारे पास समय नहीं है, हम कलयुग
Correct.
में बॉर्न हुए हैं, हमारे
Hmm.
पास समय नहीं है, हमारे पास बुद्धि भी नहीं है ज्यादा नो टू
Correct.
go
Yeah,
through all the
intelligence also
Vedas
we
and
don't have.
understand. So that is why प्रभुपाद ने इतना एकदम stern words use किए हैं कि yes, भक्ति योगा is the best. So we should not take it in a wrong way कि अरे क्यों ऐसा बोल
No,
रहे
no,
प्रभुपाद ने
ऐसे नहीं
क्यों.
है. See, this is just an observation. I'm not
No, no, good observation.
disagreeing with
You
him.
have a good
But I
observation.
see right from the beginning of the presentation till the end, the emphasis was only saying, okay, we will finally prove to you that this is not the best way. Though you will not get this process, you cannot control your mind like this and all that. So it was like that got highlighted more than actually what are the facts about how to do Ashtanga Yoga. It
So
was
that we
more in
take the
terms.
right thing. So that we take the right thing.
Yeah.
Suppose if somebody, a new person, just listens to the sixth chapter, he should just
Yeah.
take the right thing. कि, हाँ भक्ति योगा को इतना बोला जा रहा है कि भक्ति योगा सिंपल है, so I can practice that. So it's just for that matter. Otherwise, facts तो है ही, भगवत गीता में facts तो दिए हुए हैं. But why Prabhupada in purport is elaborating and is stressing more on Bhakti Yoga so that even if suppose once एक बार भी कोई बुक उठाता है और एक पेज भी रीड करता है तो उसको राइट कंक्लूजन मिलना चाहिए कि इस युग में हरि नाम ही सब कुछ है, हरि नाम ही तुम लेकर तुम्हारा गति होगा. अदरवाइज if suppose if I get attracted to Gyan Yoga, suppose Gyan Marg, there's nothing wrong, but I don't know how many lifetimes I will take to actually realize the self and to go back to Godhead.
I agree, Mataji. I
है
agree.
ना, तो इसके लिए. Yeah. Any other question, anyone?
Swati Mehta ji ne very well explained, very beautifully explained.
और माता दी इट इज ए वेरी गुड रिवीजन, क्योंकि हमने फर्स्ट टाइम अगर कोई पर्सन पढ़ रहा है, इसको सुन रहा है, तो मे बी उसके लिए पॉसिबल नहीं होगा तो समझना। ठीक है, लेकिन हमने 2-3 टाइम्स पढ़ा है और अभी जस्ट कुछ ही दिन पहले आपने कंप्लीट करवाया है, तो इट वाज वेरी गुड रिवीजन बाय स्वाति माता जी, वेरी नाइस।
More than anyone, it had helped me a lot, Mataji. Thank you, Anuradha Mataji. But while reading this now, I think it is taking me back to
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita, wherein I used to sit and read in detail. So this is a very good practice, Mataji, we have started. And while reading and rereading, a lot of realization happens. Because when you prepare something, you can't just read at one go, na? You reread, then you again read. So
और हम साथ बैठकर पूरा चैप्टर मतलब इतना अच्छे से रिवीजन नहीं कर पाते इन वन डे, तो
and
टुकड़ों
then you understand the flow, how beautiful the flow is.
में है अच्छे से।
It is like a beautiful story is going on.
यस,
And
और अभी टोटली एक साथ पढ़ने से एकदम कंटिन्यूएशन में चल रहा था वो पूरा, कि कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है कि जो इधर से उधर हुआ है। कैसे क्या प्रोसेस अष्टांग योगा क्लियर किया, कैसे प्रोसेस होता है, उसका बेनिफिट कैसे है, करने में क्या कठिनाइयां हैं, बेस्ट प्रोसेस आप कौन सा ले सकते हैं। इट्स वेरी नाइस। टोटल सबके साथ में करने से कंटिन्यूएशन में बिल्कुल क्लियर हो गया ऑल चैप्टर।
And Mataji, I think we should give credit to Gauranga Darshan Das. The way he has summarized it, it is exceptional. For anybody who cannot understand, if they just read his thing also, it is very well. He has put everything on the picture, like with arrows and everything from this shloka to this. He's done such an exceptional job. For somebody who
Yes,
wants to learn yoga or explain, teach yoga, I think this is an exceptional book. That's what we can realize from the way he has written down some of the chapters. Exceptionally done.
Yes. So उनका भागवत सुबोधिनी भी है. We should get Bhagavad Subodhini also when you're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Just go through his books of Bhagavad Subodhini and you will understand it so nice. Even Chaitanya Chaitamrit का भी Subodhini है उनके लिखा हुआ. He has done really nice work for all of us. We should take advantage of it.
He's an exceptional teacher, I think. He must be an exceptional teacher. He's internalized everything so well. And he's able to explain it to us. It's really nice. It's nice to have a session with such kind of people who are, who have completely internalized.
You can hear his classes, Mataji. Recorded lectures बहुत
Yeah,
हैं.
I do hear quite a few. I started listening to him through the reels. Small snippets used to come. Then I went into details, and then I saw some of his lectures. They're very, very enlightening. They're very, very.
Yes.
I believe he lives in.
Even for your kids ना, जिनके छोटे बच्चे हैं, कितने हैं अभी छोटे बच्चे, शायद सभी के बड़े हो गए. I think Swati Mata जी, you have a daughter who is small. तो गौरांग दर्शन प्रभु बच्चों के लिए भी बहुत अच्छे सेशंस लेते हैं.
Okay, Mataji, I'll see that. Gaurang.
Yeah, I think Tanuja Mata जी might be knowing. उनको एक बार connect करके ना.
I think he lives in Govardhan Eco Village.
Yeah, GEV में रहते हैं, and from there
yeah, it's somebody whom we should definitely meet and take his blessings.
बट माता जी हरे कृष्णा, बट आई फील माता जी प्रभुपाद की भी अगर हम श्रीमद् भागवतम अगर अच्छे से पढ़ते हैं और अगर भगवत गीता भी पढ़ते हैं, ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मुझे वो ज्यादा समझ में आता है. आई डोंट नो,
डिफरेंट पीपल कनेक्ट विद डिफरेंट पर्संस ना, तो हो सकता है किसी को डायरेक्टली सिर्फ प्रभुपाद जी का ही कनेक्ट हो जाता है. बट यस, वी डू अप्रिशिएट दोज हु हैव, आई मीन गौरांग दर्शन प्रभु जी भी बहुत अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन किए हैं, तो वी आर जस्ट अप्रिशिएटिंग दैट.
इट्स देयर, बट मैं अपना बता रही हूँ.
या
ज्यादा पढ़कर मतलब समझ में आता है कि जो प्रभुपाद की कमेंट्री है उसमें वो क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं. हर किसी का अपना हो सकता है माता जी.
राइट, या
जिस चीज से कनेक्ट हो पा रही हूँ मैं अपना बता रही हूँ, और जैसे माता जी अपना एक्सपीरियंस बता रहे हैं.
Yes.
Thank you, Swati Mataji, for the quick revision of the chapter 6. It was a beautiful presentation with all the analogies and beautiful pictures, slideshows. So it was important for us, to go through it, the entire chapter in one go, because when you are listening continuously, you are just revising.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So
And at one go, when you
point click हो जाता है.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You have to do this, you have to do this. Because when it is not totally in one go, कुछ हुआ कुछ नहीं हुआ तो वो समझ में नहीं आता है. But
That was one of the reason, Isha Mataji, I have not called Mataji and asked for,
Yeah.
in 2 lectures I'll finish, because again the flow would have been broken and then
Yeah.
you would not get the complete gist at one go.
So either we do one shloka per class or we do entire one chapter. So some or the other points we can catch. Even if we are doing one shloka also. तो one shloka भी अगर हम पूरा 1 घंटे में सुनते हैं तो पूरा अच्छे से समझ में आता है. मैंने देखा है कुछ नहीं. और कहीं मैंने ये चीज भी देखी है कि जब हम पूरा चैप्टर भी सुनते हैं तो भी हमें कुछ ना कुछ पॉइंट्स ऐसे हैं जो दिमाग को क्लिक हो जाते हैं. And we keep it as a star mark. So thank you so much for the lovely presentation.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So thank you everyone for your good efforts. Yeah, all of you all are putting very lot of efforts in preparing the chapters, preparing PowerPoints. So we'll continue this practice even further. हम अभी next week से 7 chapters शुरू करेंगे. And as we finish the chapters, we will also go on revising each chapter after we finish each chapter.
Nice process, Mataji, to revise.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Swati Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Congratulations once again, Swati.